Welcome to Behind the Scene podcasts. It's amazing to have you all here with me, and I look forward to a wonderful journey as we study behind the Psalms. Now, I believe strongly that people always have reasons for doing certain things. It can play out in two different ways. You either know the reason why you're doing something consciously, or you do something without knowing the reason because you're not conscious of it. So what we call that is you have a subconscious reason. So I believe that for what we are going to be doing, if we want to talk about behind the Psalms, there has to be an understanding behind why we are doing this. So we'll be making certain conversations, we'll be making certain arguments, we'll be making certain discourse, we'll be telling certain stories, and you have to understand why we are doing this so you can get the fuller picture and the richer picture. A wonderful way to start this will just be talking about the scripture itself, which we know as the Bible, right? We can say, I think we can all agree and say the Bible is made of different books. So it's more like a compendium of different books written by different authors but inspired by one spirit. So we have different stories, we have different accounts, we have different examples that we can learn from. And a wonderful scripture that captures this interesting truth is 2 Timothy 3 verse 16. So it says, all scriptures is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. So it essentially means that not everything we see in scripture is to be followed directly. Some things there are for learning, some things there are wisdom for the times to come, some things there are correction from bad mistakes and character flaws. So if we say Bible is made up of different accounts, it's very important that we understand what an account is. So an account is very similar, or rather it is a recording of a life event, something you can call close to a testimony. So it would mean that if it's a recording of a life event based on different people's perspective, you can definitely have different accounts of the same thing, of the same events, as you would put it. And a very good example of that would be the accounts of the gospel as we know it. So we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all recording Jesus' existence, but they didn't necessarily talk about the same thing because they were not always present. In fact, I found out that there were certain events that some of them were there for at the same time, but their perspective to it were still different. So it means that you can have an account, different account for the same event. Now, why is this important? It's important because we have to understand that, remember, we're talking about scriptures for a start. It means that beyond reading the Bible, it also should be studied. And a good Bible study would almost always take you through different books. So let's take a very good example. If you want to study the birth of Jesus, for instance, there are only two books that talk about the birth of Jesus in details in that sense. You have Matthew and then you have Luke. So it would mean at interval, you would have to look at the account of Matthew and then the account of Luke to get a full picture of what actually happened during the whole period of Jesus' birth, from the visitation of the angel to the movement to Egypt to Bethlehem, to the three wise men and the shepherd, because they are two different people. So it means you would have to have a good Bible study on that. It gives you a full, rich, and complete picture of this life event. So our focus for this podcast is the book of Psalm. Remember, I spoke about the Bible being a compendium of different books, but what we are going to be focusing on is the book of Psalms. And this is a book that is known for its songs, its poems, its prayers, its wails, outcry, and even praise. Have you ever seen the artwork or listened to a piece of music or a very wonderful arrangement and you honestly enjoyed it? Like your soul felt the music. I know I have. And then beyond listening to it, you get the opportunity to hear the author, the composer, or the writer speak to you about the idea behind it, the process in making it, what they were going through, where the song was built from. How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel when you listen to the song again after that exposure to the storyline? I know one thing I have noticed after having such experiences of those kind of exposure is that the lyrics makes much more sense. It's as if there's this depth. It becomes richer. I have much understanding that okay, this actually was the reason why this was written. The arrangement of the song makes much more sense. Everything just makes sense. It becomes full. It adds this depth that sometimes people can't put into words. So this is what we want to look at. We want to be able to consider some of the psalms and scriptures and look at the stories behind them. Well, just maybe if we can get a glimpse of what was going on, then we will understand and even appreciate and value them. And even much more than that, we will understand when and how to see them, pray them, or use them. So, the way it's going to work is this. Just like the illustration I gave earlier, we will share the story behind the Psalms. And then after we share the story behind the Psalms, that same week, you should expect to see a voiceover of that Psalm uploaded here in the same platform. So when you listen, then it will resonate well because now you understand the story better. Well, I'm excited already and I'll see you all soon. Bye.